Hello. So it's been a while since I did an update, and I'll be honest, I've been hesitating a lot to do this specific update, but I felt it was necessary. So you might have noticed from the title of the video that it sounds really a little bit dramatic, maybe, not sure. But it's about AzureHowl's future, obviously. So over the last months, I've been thinking a lot about this, and not that long ago, I brought this up to the attention of my Patreon supporters, and eventually I moved to the Discord, and then to DeviantArt. But I felt like it would have been wrong if I didn't involve YouTube, since that's where a lot of you guys are at. So the thing is, I've been thinking a lot about restarting AzureHowl, and just, well, you know, starting with a clean slate, starting over. And I was really worried to bring this up to the followers of AzureHowl for, well, several reasons, I guess. AzureHowl has been going on since 2009, so it's been quite a long time, actually. Over the years of making it, a lot of problems have been caused, so to say, and these problems only became bigger as the episodes continued. One of the major problems, for instance, is that when I started AzureHowl, I was just a kid. And when you wrote something down, or you made an episode, or you drew a species of wolves, you didn't think it through, you just made it, and you were, you know, the majority of children are kind of easily content, and they don't question too much. But as you grow older, these kind of things change extremely. I had this problem where I have this old storyboard that I made when I was a kid with some points and factors for the story. And then as I grew older, I began to rewrite things. I wanted to change the storyline. I wanted to add more things in. I had different ideas that I was really happy about. And basically what I did was I began to force the two storyboards together. They were making things difficult, and to solve certain problems, I had to make up, well, I would say probably excuses to ensure that those problems could be working with the old storyboard. Some other problems I personally have is that I probably explain too much off-screen rather than in-screen, and I would like to change that too. So this is where we get at now. The idea of restarting AzureHowl. I don't want to explain all the problems quite yet, since if like everybody would be like super angry and not too happy, then I might reconsider. But if it would happen, which will only be decided after the current episode is finished, then I would probably make a longer video to explain all the problems. Right now, it doesn't feel necessary to explain them, and a lot of people also seem to mistake some things that haven't been told for things that are missing. Well, there are reasons for a lot of things in the story. I've just been kind of really secretive about it, and this caused kind of more questions than answers, I guess. So to talk about it further, before you maybe aren't too sure about this, I would like to talk about some of the positive factors that could come with this. For instance, the species could get updates. This is something I really would be eager for. I have done some polls already on DeviantArt to see what species people are really close to, so I'm of course not kicking out their favorite species. But one of the things that I did as a kid when I made species was basically I just drew it. I was thinking, for instance, like Windwolf, well, just give them little wings. And well, as a kid, I was just happy with that really quickly. And if you look at the old picture of the species and compare them to the species that were made, you can even see that they're very close to the original idea. Of course, now I'm older, there are just more ideas coming up, things I want. I would really enjoy the wolves to have different traits depending on their species. For instance, here, this was a concept that was shown on my Patreon. This would, for instance, be a good example of what an Earth wolf could look like in a read-on version of AzureHowl. You can see they have their own type of fur, they have a bit of a stronger build, they have those cute little tails. Yeah, I really had some inspiration from these draft horses. I love them. But the thing is, they kind of look completely different more unique if you put them next to their old look. Some species, on the other hand, would possibly completely change. So the negative factor would be if people have fan characters, those fan characters would eventually, well, maybe no longer fit the species. Here, for example, with this other concept art, you can see another species, the water species, how they could look just a lot more interesting with some subtle changes, such as their fur being really sleek, kind of more like an otter. So they would be kind of built for the water. You can see that they have some more, fishy traits, I would say, with the fins on their heads there. And it would be overall fun as well to add some gender differences. This is something I did start to include, but of course, since so many of the species were already made, I could no longer include this. So basically, the gender differences are mostly colors, and nothing else actually. But anyways, if you think about it, a lot of species could go through quite some change. Some of the lore would go through some change. Another thing is that quite some characters would be recasted. I'm looking especially at characters like Reika, Luna, Chaos. They would all get new voice actors. Another maybe down point would be some characters could be written out. Characters that basically existed in the old storyline and actually have very little purpose in the new one. The other thing I would do, of course, is include more information in-screen rather than off-screen to ensure that you guys learn more from watching the episode than reading the site, because right now it's kind of the opposite. If you read the official site, you know more about AzureHowl than somebody who watched all the episodes. If episode 1 would be redone, let's put it this way, if you watch the new episode then, you would likely know 5 times more than you do watching the episode now. The other thing I would like to point out is the episodes wouldn't just be redone, because a lot of people wouldn't maybe be happy to see the same thing going over again and such. My idea actually is that the entire story would follow some key factors of the new storyboard and the ideas that I've been working on in the last years, with some of the old, because actually I do like a few of the old that I have not yet shown in the episodes, but I really don't want to drop those. But other than that, the storyline would be completely different. I think maybe the first episode might have some similarities with the first original episode, but even there would probably be a lot of changes. For instance, the Dark Cities, or as the majority of you know them as the Ghost Pups, the focus on them kind of starts at episode 5, episode 4 if you listen to the boss, but it's actually really late, especially for a group of wolves that is part of the main story. Like, they're really important to it, and yet they're featured so late. So in the first episode, they would likely be shown at least maybe a few scenes or hints or information would be given about them. Anyways, I really wanted to point this out to you guys. I do like to hear opinions, but be a little bit open-minded about it. Think about it as well. I will bring up this last factor. Let's say I do continue with AzureHowl. Even in the last years, I've noticed that my motivation has gone down quite a lot. I sometimes just didn't feel like wanting to animate, to work on it, because I've just had so many ideas in my mind, or had so many things I wanted to change that I could not change anymore. Sure, I could just say, well, from the next episode, all of this is changed. But then people who watch the first episode, they will likely get confused from first to the last, because they wouldn't know like what's going on. Like, they would have to read updates or the site or something, and I don't want that. So chances are, let's say if I force myself to continue, that I will lose motivation all the way through, and that eventually it would just end. But if I would restart with AzureHowl, I could do things a lot different. For instance, to make sure that episodes have some more speed to the progress of it all, I could consider to have the wolves talk telepathically to each other, so that I don't have to work on all these lip syncs and such, so that the wolves could actually communicate with just having a look to it one another. I feel like this would help speed up the episode a lot as well. It would still be an animated series, but at the same time I can speed up things by making the talking sequences a bit easier to do. Currently the episode has been making fast progress, and I'm hoping to keep that up to get this episode done. I have to say, when I shared it at all 3 places, it was met with far more positive remarks and people supporting it versus the opposite side. So I'm not sure how it will be on YouTube, but I'm hoping that people will watch this video and kind of understand, and we'll see where that goes. And I do want to give a big thank you to my Patreon supporters. They're the most amazing bunch of people. I've always been able to count on them for support, and I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Have a good day.